Afternoon, everyone. Let's start. I know the previous session overrun a little bit in time, so we'll keep this one relatively short. Actually, it was scheduled for 1 hour, but I think we will try to do it in half an hour or so. So we keep it relatively quick. We're also trying to make it a little bit interactive, and please raise your hands if you have any questions. Before we start, I want you to imagine a city and a skyline not just dotted with buildings and towering structures, but actually one with thriving life. And actually mean this literally. So imagine this. In the heart of KL, a construction company is faced not with a challenge, but actually with an epic quest. Their mission? Create a skyscraper that would redefine the urban landscape forever. Linking this back to the beauty of Malaysia, the cutting edge IT, they dare to dream bigger. Let's call this building the Eco Titan, a skyscraper that would be living, breathing entity. A vertical Eden, lush gardens, solar panels as its skin, and a neural network of IT optimizing every little bit of energy. This building didn't just change what sustainability is. It was a symbol, something about redefining, something spectacular. It lived, it breathed, and it gave back to the environment. As we talk today about our conversation, I want you to remember we are not just thinking about bricks and mortars. We're talking about the future, and we are talking about the endless limitless opportunities that we have. My name is Hans Weemaes. I will be moderating this panel discussion. We'll keep it short. But before we go dive in, some of the brief context. You probably know this already. Construction industry responsible for 39% of the global carbon emissions. Malaysia alone, construction sector, over 13,000 tons of waste per year. Buildings consume over 40% of energy. Now let's meet the brilliant minds that have here with us. Each of those panelists have prepared a short 3-slide presentation to take a personal journey into their perspective of ESG, how they got into this, and a brief introduction of what their company is actually doing. And I think this will really kickstart that discussion. So let's start with Ms. Hannah, ladies first. Please proceed with your slides.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans. Yeah, and good afternoon to everybody. Sorry, it's a little bit late today. Yeah, because of some overruns earlier on, but nevertheless, we'll keep it short and simple. Yeah, just a little bit background of myself. I started my career way back in 1990. Yeah, and it's been a 30-year journey. I've gone through starting as an accountant. I've gone through all the little icons you can see there: finance, business development, and so on and so forth, transformation. And quite recently, I've just taken up the portfolio of sustainability. Yeah, it's not exactly new, but as a portfolio, it's new to me. So in a way, I'm a newbie here, right? Okay. Now, I would also like to then move on to the next slide here, just to mention and describe how personal this has become to me. Yeah, in the last few years, flooding has been a very extreme problem, especially here in Kuala Lumpur, in our urban city center. We have a lot of great infrastructure that helps us. We have the smart tunnel, we have a lot of drainages and so on. But why is it still happening? Yeah, and the worry for my kids whenever there's heavy rain, will they be home safe or not? I can't imagine how it would be like in 2030, in 2050, if we don't embark on this sustainability journey seriously. Yeah, so that is where we are at this point in time, and it has touched me on a very, very personal level. So that's where I felt that it was just so timely that the board of directors told me, okay, Hannah, please chart the ESG roadmap for CIMA, Cement Industry of Malaysia. That's where I am at right now. Yeah, which in the next slide, I can share with you a little bit of what we are all about. Yeah, I can take a few minutes, Hans. Yeah, okay. Now, I know when Hans opened the whole session by saying construction contribute to 39% of the overall global emission. I mean, yes, that's the reality. But if you don't have construction, where are we going to stay? And if we don't have construction for the hydroelectric dam, or even just to have the, I know here we don't have nuclear power plant, but any infrastructure, roads, transportation, power station, everything requires construction. So I think instead of saying construction is the heavy emitter of GHG and is going to take us to a dark and gloomy kind of earth, we have to balance that. Yeah, so now what we need to rephrase, take off that filter, put in a new filter and say, how can then we build it in a more sustainable manner? Yeah, and here we have our esteemed panel here to talk about it. And I would just like to touch on what from CIMA perspective as a building materials provider can actually contribute to the lowering of the carbon. Yeah, as you can see, we contribute two ways. A lot of times when people talk about green building, a lot of focus have been more on the architectural design as to how it actually is suited to the local hydrology, the local environment, yeah, and how operationally it can have a renewable kind of energy, sustainable energy. So it's a lot to do with energy, water conservation, water management, but less has been touched about the CO2 footprint of the embodied carbon of the materials itself, and also the carbon emitted during construction. Only now recently when you start calculating the CO2, then you realize that we've been focusing on only one half of the story. The other half of the story comes from the materials itself, yeah? And can I just ask the audience a question? Go ahead. Is everybody living in a house that is made of concrete? Right? And if you say you don't want concrete, will we still have our homes? It's still not a sustainable manner yet to have bamboo houses for everybody, yeah? So we have to live with it. But what we can do is be responsible about it, yeah? Build more for less, and also lower our carbon. Now, how we lower the carbon of our cement is actually embarking on all these decarbonization levers. We are not alone. We are guided by the Global Cement Association, and they've embarked on this journey more than 20 years ago. And for us in Malaysia, we've embarked on this more than 10 years ago before even anybody else is calculating CO2. We have our own framework to calculate CO2. And how? Okay, one part of our carbon comes from burning fossil fuel. And for that, for the past 10 years, we have been burning alternative fuel from biomass waste as well as industrial waste. Biomass waste would be the palm kernel shell, yeah, and bamboo and all kinds of the PKS and so on. And also industrial waste as well, like shredded tires. I mean, there are so many cars on the road, and there are a lot of waste tires, so we have been burning that. So we have been using a lot of waste from other industry to actually power our kilns, and that has lowered the carbon footprint, yeah? Furthermore, we have a lot of other factors which I will not touch on today, but I'm happy to say that if you buy our cement, we have already lowered it to about 20% lower. All the way, we have a range of green products where it is up to 80% lower carbon footprint. So that is the first thing about us being responsible in lowering the carbon. Now the second one poses a little bit of a challenge to us, yeah, because the second one is more we are willing and able and ready to provide green solutions, but not a lot of take-up rate, yeah. So maybe here I would also like to convince my colleague here, Chan, also to look at it differently. Why? Because the solution that can come out of innovation in building material, in concrete especially, if you're not used to stretching the boundaries, you would use a very safe guideline in terms of the compressive strength, in terms of how the engineering design criteria are, yeah? That will be business as usual. But we have experience with a lot of people who have pushed the boundary, those that build 100 stories and above, like the recent Merdeka 118, where we actually leverage on ultra high performance concrete, where you can actually lower the quantity or the amount of concrete that you require as well as steel, when we can actually give the high performance of the load bearing with a smaller column, more slender column. So it is what I meant. Build more for less. You have to build the high rise. You have to build a skyscraper, as Hans mentioned. But you don't need to use that much concrete at the end of the day if you can rely on the ultra high performance. Now, a lot of all this is difficult to optimize the materials when you don't have applications to really calculate to the extreme. But if currently I look at generative design as a very positive outcome, where with AI-powered design, the engineers can actually provide the outcome that they require, but put in the input of the materials, where now the materials, if there's any innovation in the materials, where you can actually perform better than normal when you input into it and you generate the design through the AI, they can give you a lot of iterative where they can tell you, pinpoint exactly where the load bearing column should be and where you can actually do without load bearing, or you can actually spec in high performance concrete and remove half the quantity of the concrete that is required. So I'm looking forward to AI from that perspective, where the innovation of building material can work seamlessly with the engineering, and even like, for example, IBS is already in the forefront, but hopefully with this, you can even be even more further into the frontier, So that is where we are coming from. It's not easy. A lot of skeptics who say that, are you sure, even when we do fiber reinforced concrete, they say, are you sure you can replace steel? Okay, if you have that finite element analysis to actually calculate, then you could possibly prove it, Okay, so that is where I'm coming from. And then maybe the next slide, I shall wrap it up. All right, now my aspiration for the world, Basically, you can't stop growth, right? It's not like of Marvel, where ultimately, to ensure the sustainability of universe, you have to kill half the population. Can't do that, right? So growth is inevitable. But we can partner it with sustainability and still respect Earth and still have a beautiful and sustainable world for humanity, Here, it gets even more personal. Why? Because in the next 30 years, 2030 is where your children is. If we are already suffering now, they will be suffering even more. And what happens to their children, which is our grandchildren? So I think I'll add my slide to say that, as what architect Dr. Ken Yong talked about, we need to save the planet for our children and for our grandchildren. It's not just for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannah. Very, very good to hear your personal story, and I think this sets the scene. Dr. Khairolden, your academic and practical insights will be absolutely valuable. Please, the floor is all yours for your introduction.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Thank you, Hans. So I'm Khairolden from Construction Research Institute of Malaysia. So I started my career actually at CREAM, my position at CREAM since 2007. So even though my background actually in the PhD in the facilities management, but I'm really passionate about the sustainability and also the resilience, since they are quite close to my heart. So to look into this, what's happening now day to day from activities from the construction. So I'm now a manager for the construction industry consultancy portfolio, looking into this, some of the development of standards, development of guidelines on the sustainability, looking for the sustainability practices of a roadmap. So in fact, we have do some collaboration with YTL Cement, looking into the development of a roadmap. So as well as with the CIMA as well. right? So I think there are a bright future for the sustainability in the construction industry in the near future. Right, next slide, please. Okay, so when we talk about the problems right now, we have encountered the problem with the climate change, and also what's the solution. So I just came back from the Johor last night. We have training, very aggressive training on the to mitigate the floods and also the landslide to the local authorities. So in fact, due to the heavy rain yesterday in Johor, so we cannot make it to climb the Gunung Pulai to see the incident that was struck in 2001 and mistaken. So that day, so we just can have opportunity to walk to climb the Gunung Pulai to this morning. So I cannot make it for due to this some of the event today. So that's some of the initiatives that have been taken by CRIM and also CIDB to look into the resiliencies and also the how to we are going to mitigate the climate change in the industry. Right. So next, please. Next slide. Right. So see, as you can see over there is about the some of the initiatives that have been taken by the government as well as through the CIDB. As what you mentioned is Construction Research Institute of Malaysia is in short CRIM. Actually, is a research institute under CIDB Malaysia. So we are not a government, but more on the what we call it company limited by guarantee, like a foundation. So that we are trying to our findings, our research, our services that we have provided to the industry will power back to the betterment for the construction industry. So one of the core activities that we are looking into this in the on the R&D and also the some of the services for the testing, for the assessment, for the green. Right, so looking into the some of the construction product, green construction product as well. So these are some of the effort that have been taken by CIDB so far, looking into the GSG baseline for the construction industry. So we have developed the report on the GSG baseline. So second one, we also have developed the guidelines and industry standard coming out for the some two major problems in the Malaysia, a landslide and also the flood. So for the landslide, we have get the approval from the local government to be adopted as one of the implementation to be for the local authority for the purpose of the development planning for the construction, right? So the third one, we do also have some certification and also some assessment green rating tool on the green RE and MICRES. In fact, this is the latest information that we have just signed the MOU, the MOA between the Green RE and also the CRIM, looking into the joint certification, what we call it joint rating tool for the industry, right? So the second one, we also have a sustainable infrastructure, looking into the anything that regards to the infrastructure project, for dam, airport, highway, and whatnot. So right, so in terms of incentivize, there are a lot of government has put forward for the incentive to be taken by the industry. As at the moment, the MICRES program at this moment for this year only, we have to provide the free for all. So maybe next next year will be charging to the industry. So please take the opportunity to grasp the program that was conducted by CIDB, right? So in fact, for the guidelines, we also not only looking into the landslide, also the flood, but also we have developed guidelines, the first guidelines into looking into the pits. That this morning I heard the biodiversity ecosystem, looking into the pit land and whatnot. So, but in the context of the construction industry, we also do that. The some of the research looking into the development of guidelines of the pit and organic soil, which is we know that the most what we call the most pit land actually in the Sarawak and also the Sabah, right? So we have tackled that problem. We come up with the two version of the guidelines to address in terms of the calculation, the estimation cost. How much we are going to repair for make some of rectification for the pit and organic soil at the construction. Right. So next, please. Okay. So my prediction towards the sustainability. Actually, we are looking into the sustainable digital construction ecosystem. Right. So we have to blend together the digital and also the sustainable towards in the construction. And in fact, in Malaysia, we are still don't have any roadmap specifically looking into the sustainable construction practices. So this is timely for the government and also CIDB as well, CRIM, with industry players to embark on this roadmap and also to promote ESG and resilient excellence as well as the upskilling the local talents that we have produced in the graduate and the postgraduate student in university in Malaysia. So I hope this is some of the kickstart of our discussion this afternoon. Right, thank you. Hans.
Thank you, Dr. Khairolden. I think very good to hear your predictions for the future. Yachan, your expertise in engineering will undoubtedly share some insights on practical challenges and solutions. Go ahead with your introduction.
Thank you, Hans. It's great to be here today. Hi, all the audience, and so first time I met up with Hannah. But Khairolden is we have been dealing for quite some time. You know, in the road in IBS, the journey in IBS, we need the support from all levels, from the government, CIDB, as well as the developers, especially that past radar chairman, the late radar chairman, Michael Yam, will be a great help to me. So a little bit background about me. So I'm this civil engineer by professions. So my origin is Kedah. It's a green state. So I'm not relating to the state election that's just over, but it is green. Now it's widely known as hijau kuning. I think anyone from Kedah, you know, hijau kuning. Kedah is actually a very different state from the rest because we have a flat land. So whenever you enter Kedah, people see that you have a endless view of this paddy fields. When my time with this consultancy, we are embarking on these double track projects. So they have taken some bird's eye view, satellite view, then by somebody, then there's one Indian consultants, engineers, they said, why this whole state is like flooded? You know, when after the harvest, you practically fill with waters, then you will see the whole state is like flooded, but it's not. It just shows that the state is so flat. So I'm with the IGM IBS. So IGM IBS is a new setup by this IGM Corp. So we are spearheading this digital IBS solution as well as to embark on these more innovative construction methods, which Ms. Hannah has said that there's a lot of ways that we can work together. I think me and her will have a lot of some private session after this. So because I'm almost 50s, you know, when in the 80s, this is how our sustainable lifestyle is. So basically, we make use of whatever we can find to play with my friends. So not so much on the plastic toys or whatnot. So no, we are leading a very sustainable lifestyle. So but when the society progress, so we have to rely on a lot of these tech gadgets, and so this is how our society progress. So next, please. So I also want to take this opportunity to show some of the works that we have done over in IGM IBS. So there are some fine prints to show about my background. I started as a design engineer with this consultancy, CNS consultancy. Then after that, I joined this ICP as a sales engineer. Then after that, a stint with this promoting this precast foundations. I was tasked to take the lead on this digital construction and set up this company called IGM IBS. So this company started from planning stage, started about 5 years ago. So during these 5 years, we hit the COVID, so there are a lot of challenges. And this is a digital IBS solution. We have to start from ground up. So need to train my staff to master these technologies. So it all we like this startup company. So the road on this smart IBS, digital IBS is not easy, but we managed to pull through. So this, you can see some photos. There's one photo in the center. You can see the slab filled with the balls. So this is a new product coming from our digital platform. So like Ms. Hannah said, we build more with less, right? So this same thing as well. So this plastic is a recycled plastic. So we can have this technology to reduce this amount of cement that we use in our smart IBS or precast solutions. So the way forward for this construction industry is, I totally agree that if we without construction, we won't be sitting here. We have a nice hall here. So it's just a matter of how we want to leverage on the innovations, tap into our local talents, upgrading our local talents to do more with less. Because the construction industry, when the whole country started in the 80s, when the country booming with all the inflow of FDI, we don't pay so much attention to how we build. We just rely on the brute force, the amount of labor that we have. So we try to, for example, one task, or perhaps you take 10 workers to build, so just do it. But moving forward to nowadays, we have to think of the productivity. Because you also know that a lot of these, even the fresh graduate, they rather choose to be a Grab driver instead of to work in the industry or the manufacturing. So sustainable and upgrading this productivity has to go hand in hand. So by having this facility, by having this system, we can provide more innovative solution, while we can also afford to pay more, because we require the high-skilled laborers and workers to help us to come up with these solutions. So next, please. So I will leave more time for Hans to blast us with all the questions. He has prepared a long list of questions. So feel free to connect with me. So you can reach out to me after the session. So thank you. Back to you, Hans.
Thank you very much. So I did prepare a long list of questions, but we're going to skip all of this. We're going to go straight into the rapid fire questions. Basically, I'm just going to ask a simple question and a relatively short response. In the meantime, if people have ideas or suggestions, just raise your hand and use that as an opportunity to ask your questions as well. We've got 10-15 minutes, so it's going to be nice and quick and hopefully high energy. Let's start with Ms. Hannah. Ms. Hannah, name one city that exemplifies for you sustainable construction.
Okay, maybe Copenhagen?
Go ahead and explain us why or what is special about Copenhagen.
Okay. I think this is where the livability is all about. Yeah? Besides having a lot of renewable energy and sustainable energy, it also takes into account the comfort and the living comfort for the people there, promoting the community, a lot of walkway, and also in terms of how the water returns back to earth with a lot more permeable spaces, yeah, gardens here and there, vegetation. So I think that is in a way a very ideal place where you can actually live, work, and play at the same time. So to me, that aspect is also very important. And another aspect is they do promote a lot of reuse. Yeah, they don't just irresponsibly just tear down building and rebuild, because that would be the heaviest carbon footprint of all. So if they encourage rejuvenation of the city by upgrading your existing building or converting it to some other use, and not tearing down old buildings, they respect the old buildings. And the buildings are actually built to last. Concrete especially, it can last more than 100 years. So can you imagine if you only have the embodied carbon one time when you first build it, but over the years you are just adding on or renovating and improving on it. So it is very much less carbon footprint compared to a new build all the time, yeah? So respecting old building to last, like the first concrete, I think that still lasts is probably the Pantheon in Rome, where it was built in the 1st century, and that is without steel reinforcement. I don't know how they do it, but it's still there. So if we don't have war, or we don't tear down our buildings, we can still sustain ourselves in a lot of livable spaces and respecting the environment as well. So to me, that is how I see Copenhagen to be at this time.
I should make a trip to Copenhagen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question here. I think to put in context here, the definition of construction industry is a little bit different here in Malaysia because it's defined by the Act 520. Right? We look at that into sustainability in construction industry. The first thing that got into the players, the construction industry players, is I only do what's stated in the contract, which is not beyond the construction industry, which is the specifier and the designer is the one who put it in. So as a contractor, so it could be a little bit difficult for me because I only follow my contract. If my contract didn't specify a more better cement or IBS or any other construction method, so that's actually beyond the construction industry players. So how does the players now can advocate for sustainability while the one who determine, who have the final answer would be the designer and the developer? So question for that.
Okay, maybe I can just
Go ahead.
give some color to it. If you think about it, you can, even as a contractor, even though, let's say, the developer is not going for green building index or so on, and you come in just as a contractor, but on your side, you can be responsible as well, because it depends on how lean your construction methodology is, how much wastage you create during your construction spacing, and also in terms of, just now, the audience have also touched on the S, how well do you treat your workers, how well do you provide the conditions for your workers. So all are actually within everybody. ESG is within everybody, even if nobody is looking at you, but you yourself know that you are responsible as a company, so you can do your part. Yeah, thanks.
Can I
To
give a
address
takeaway?
Rizalman question about the Act 520 of CIDB, actually, the definition of the construction industry quite broad. So means that the contractors, especially I believe that the small contractors that CIDB would like to tackle the small contractors. There are many thousands outside there about there are how to address the sustainable practices in their construction and their practices. So because the small contractors just focus on the small projects, the G1, G2, and G3. Rather than this big contractors as well, G7, they are more. They have engineers, they have project managers, as you can name it. So, but the small contractor, the most issues that we want to address to the sustainable practices. So, as what the government tried to look into this sustainable practices, being also look into the small contractors after this, right? Yeah.
Excuse me.
Can I add a bit to what Zaman said? So you have, I'm sharing it from my perspective as this IBS supplier. So you have touched on the points that when the design or when the contract specified that it has to be used as like design as in, for example, cast in situ or brickworks, to change it to other more sustainable method, for example, IBS or whatnot, is, from my experience, is super challenging. It's almost impossible because of the cost perspective, for the time frame. So once the jobs are specified in that, it's almost, I would say, end of story. That's why we have, me, ourselves have a separate session with this CIDB they have worked out a booklet on how to encourage the developer and the contractor and all the stakeholders in the construction industry to come beforehand, during the preliminary stage, design stage. So how do we put in as a design to be more sustainable in the way we construct? Yeah.
Thank you. Some simple questions. Dr. Khairolden, I hope you read a lot of books. What is one book or resource that you would recommend to anybody in the area of sustainability that they should read?
All right. So I have read many books around this about the sustainability, but Green Growth and Sustainability is one of the good books for us to know in terms of sustainable construction and also the green technology. And in fact, there are a lot of, I believe the construction industry is still not in the clear picture what does it mean of the sustainable and also the green technology is all about. So because the looking back into the ecosystem of the green and also sustainable stability, there are a lot of components that looking into the low embodied carbon, net zero carbon, you know, so adaptive renewable energy, you know, about the what we call it, everything about with regard to the sustainable in terms of digital transformation. So all need to know about this. We have to read out many books regarding to these sustainable practices. Right? Thank you.
Thank you. Read it, add it to the list. Chan, what is more impactful, reducing waste or improving energy efficiency?
At the moment, I think there's not a question of both. I think we have to.
You have to
both.
choose. Have to choose.
It's not a matter. Actually. So we will try to achieve both. Achieving this energy efficiency. For example, what we do in my setup is we actually lay the design. I mean, we design the roof to be able to fit in with the solar panel. So we are preparing ourselves when the times comes. So we'll just on it, and then it can be even more sustainable than we know that this method is already sustainable enough. Then comes to the reducing waste inside the factories. By our setup, we don't leave anything to waste. Even you get the cement that is some extras. This concrete that we will wash it and then we reuse it. So in terms of the steel, you know, is one of the top carbon emissions building material, as well as it's expensive. So we have to find ways to reduce it. So we have this method, digital solution, to actually I would say 100%, but I would say 99% eliminate the wastages. Yeah, this is that's why we have to embark on these smart solutions and technology. Use the technology to help us to overcome and achieving this 3R solution: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Fantastic. Ms. Hannah, what is the biggest myth about green cement?
Okay, that is not durable. That's the biggest myth. Because in actual fact, green cement can be very durable, even more durable than normal concrete. And we have been using green concrete more than 10 years ago when we used it for Bridge, we use it for the Ulu Terengganu Dam. But it's just that at that time, green is not the mantra then. Yeah, it's more used. We use a lot of substitution like PFA, fly ash, GGBS. We triple blend to a certain extent, and even the Moderator 118. Not because we wanted to brand it green, but because it was a requirement for the consultant for the stringent property outcomes that they require in terms of low heat of hydration. A little bit technical here, but it's for ultra high performance concrete. So this is a opportunity now today for me to at least now brand it as green, and it is durable and it is at times stronger than normal concrete. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Dr. Khairolden, do you foresee a future where all buildings are net zero energy?
I believe in the future we are going towards the net zero energy. We can do that. We can achieve that, especially in our countries. As long as the collaboration, the support from all these multi-cross sectors towards the net zero energy is come from now. So we have to get the support from the industry players to support the government initiative. There are a lot of initiatives that our government are going drafting for the sustainable, also the green technology as well. So I think sooner or later we will adapt that net zero or low carbon, low embodied carbon in our practices nowadays. In fact, the construction industry nowadays still they are lacking behind in terms of technology, in terms of automation, in terms of advanced material, But after the COVID-19, we can see the trend. Now people are more aware, cautious about the green awareness, you know. So about the practices. So outside there are a lot of opportunities, and they will improve a lot of opportunity, especially in the organization, their company. In the long run, it will be benefit to the company. At the moment for the short term, they need a lot of investment and a lot of assistance from the government, incentive from the government. So, but in the future, so I believe small contractors, small companies, and also towards the end, also the big contractor, big companies also can work together to achieve that zero energy in the countries, right? Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to wrap this up soon, but a few more questions. Irchan, one construction material you believe will be obsolete in 10 years' time due to sustainability concerns?
Tough questions. I don't know. It's a trap. Cement will still be around. The one is I know for sure. But the thing that most likely will not be around, I would say that hopefully we can see. I would say towards the material. I hope to see that we can increase the productivity by having less foreign workers here. So. But materials, as what Ms. Hana has shared, that this material is very super important when you go, especially when you go on these IBS solutions. This is how we can innovate using a different material to reduce these carbon emissions. For example, she just shared that we're also using quite a fair bit of this green cement that with the highest contents of this PFA. So, I mean, those are in the construction industry, you know that to use this PFA on site actually is not easy because we have this time frame to catch that you want to strike the formwork earlier, so you need to have this high early strength. So when the PFA actually it has a different effect on this affecting these early strengths. So this when it's used in my factory, it's used in the factory environment, then it's different because we have other methods to actually speed up this curing strength and whatnot. So sorry for getting a bit more technical. But the material, I would say that there will be a new material coming. For example, Ms. Hana also shared that the fiber glass reinforcement. So things like that will complement the other materials, steel and whatnot, so that we can go on to have more innovation and reduce this kind of the material that require the intensive energy to produce.
Thank you. Last question, same one for everyone before I thank everybody. In one word, Ms. Hana, describe the future of sustainability.
Well, it's non-negotiable. So I believe the future is bright for sustainable.
Bright and non-negotiable. 2 words, but perfect. Dr. Khairolden, your turn.
The future of sustainable in the construction actually using the net zero and also low embodied carbon towards the, especially for the construction industry. Right.
Net zero, low carbon. I'll give you 2 words as well instead of 1.
Thank you, Hans, for the generosity. So since I work with I'm championing this IBS solution to the market, only 2 words, smart IBS.
Thank you very much. Guys, I know we run a little bit over time. I wanted to wrap this up. If there's any questions from the audience, I think this would be a perfect time to raise your hand and ask some questions.
Yeah, it's me.
Go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, the panels. My name is Raj Swami. I'm from the United Nations. I'm a disaster risk response resilience engineer. Okay, I've been hearing your presentation is pretty good. Okay, one thing I'd like to ask Huan Hannah here on the multi-materials. You have mentioned about your green material, green products, and you're shooting for 2030. We know COP 26, 27, 28 is coming up and so on, all the crap. Because they are talking, the big boys are talking, that nothing is moving. But inshallah, I think in Malaysia, I think we can meet the 2030, 2040 goal in emissions. Now, you have not touched on SDG goal 2030. you means I'm talking about now the manufacturers have an obligation under SDG goal 2030, under the goal number 9, number 7, number 13, that you got to be sustainable, okay, in producing all kind of building materials, okay, that's coming out of the markets to remain sustainable and resilience, number one. Number two, I think Mr. Ibrahim, is it, Mr. Khairolden, he has been providing teaching and training and so on. I'm also an academia before, and I'm a trainer right now, okay, after retired from United Nations. I am endorsed by DOSH. I think you know it's Oshin, 2017. It's going to be a new game changer, starting in 24, January 24 onwards. All the industry players, government, consultants, contractors, and other stakeholders, they have to abide by OSHIP 2017. So if we can and enlighten people here with attending what is OSHIM's requirement in sustainability, meeting the climate change requirement for environmental sustainability. And also Engineer Chan here and IBS. So the IBS is a way forward for future construction. But the Malaysian crowd, mostly developers, quote unquote, are not buying it. Okay? So how are you going to educate them? All right? In line with the Malaysian requirement, okay, both from the government, legislative body, okay, which is going to be in regulations and policy in the future. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for the question. Yeah. Okay. I'll just start off with the fact that, yes, at CIMA Malaysia, we actually have mapped our 2050 net zero roadmap to the 17 SDGs. Yeah. Just now I touched briefly on the decarbonization levers. It's just I didn't have enough time to touch on everything, but maybe just to pick a few examples. Like for example, water conservation, water management. Yeah. We actually come up building solutions for the green infrastructure to actually cater for such a thing. Like for example, permeable roads, or what you can say is roads, concrete, outdoor, but actually water can go through, where the rainfall can actually recharge the groundwater at the local hydrology itself. So these are the solutions that we actually come up with. That's what I meant when there is also the building material aspect and also the green solutions aspect that we bring, so that we can also ensure water is preserved, and that is one part of avoiding flooding for the urbanization that we see right now. So there are many other things like protecting the environment that we do observe, because we have very tight monitoring by the DOE as well, and also our own self-monitoring to ensure we do no harm to the local flora and fauna because of our activities. And as far as community is concerned, yes, we have a lot of community engagement, and also we do contribute to education and all the health and education aspects of the community surrounding us especially. So yes, we do look into the 17 SDGs very seriously. Thank you very much.
Okay, for the second question on OSHIM, actually, OSHIM is a new game changer for the safety and health in the construction industry. So in fact, we have just concluded that the government, together with the DOSH and also CIDB, would like to mandate these guidelines, the OSHIM, to be implemented to the construction industry. So last month, I went to the international workshop in Putrajaya looking into the design for safety. They want to include the design for safety into the OSHIM. So that designer will put full responsible into the when we did the design about the safety features with regards to as well as the sustainable practices. So these OSHIM guidelines actually the first guidelines in Malaysia that looks into the emphasizing the safety and health, rather than before that we have OSHA Act, everything. So I think sooner or later the government tried to mandate this to be implemented for the construction industry. Still at the final stage, I believe. Then what we are planned to do for the the near future is to automate the scoring system, everything into the digitalization. So everything on the design, safety part, requirement, sustainable features, everything. So we put into the automation. So if the DOSH endorse our proposal, so we can work together to implement it into the automation part rather than we have just do it into a manual style before, right? So thank you very much.
Thank you for the questions. I think you also understand a bit of the tough journey of this IBS. Nonetheless, after we embark on this IBS, we also want to say that construction itself is a very wide industry. It covers a lot of aspects. I mean, we talk about building itself, also cover, you know, you have warehouses, you have factories, you have buildings, all this. It can be go on as a IBS or precast. And let me tackle from those niche projects first, niche job. For example, warehouses, office building, and factories. Those, I can see that there's a demand and there's a consistent demand for IBS because it has to be built fast. You're on a very tight timeline, so they will definitely go on as IBS. So that's where we have this flexible system. We also can cater for that market. Come to the more competitive market, for example, residential buildings. So that one, definitely IBS, the adoptions for IBS system in our Malaysian market is very low. As what you can see in the market is those system suppliers, actually they serve only their own projects. They don't really like go out and serve because the journey to serve external parties is just, it's too challenging. That I have faced it myself. But I still have faith in this IBS solution. Why? Because we are like Singapore, we are only looking at the precast, but there are 3 stages of this IBS or precast solutions. We are looking at the precast. The next one will be the prefabrications. The next one, the ultimate goal will be the pre-finish. When you have the pre-finished elements or the modular house or what inside the factories, I think when the day comes, no developer will go back to the ways that they get the workers to do the job on site anymore. But there's still a long journey towards that. But imagine you can just custom buy the home of the factory, reach a site, deliver it, reach a site, just leave it and install and plug all this electrical MEP services and done. So is it doable? It's already been completed in other countries. Can we do it? Yes, we can. We have the talents. You have us, and then you have all the stakeholders that in place to help to achieve this dream. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's wrap this all up. So first of all, panelists, thank you very much for your valuable insight, your personal journeys, and answering the question from the audience. Guys, I hope that you enjoyed this session, maybe different than the other ones and relatively short and interactive. So thank you very much for your contribution as well. And I'll hand it over back to you, Jonita.
Okay, thank you so much, Hans. I'm so sorry that we had to cut short this session, but the speakers have so much of experience and insights to share. So please catch them after this if you have more questions for them. And I will now hand it over to CGM for the next session. Thank you.